Okay, let's get to our main speaker. Angelyn is an old friend of ours from North Park College or University, and we collaborated with her in producing her book um, on the plaster migration. We called it on the plaster workers in the United States and mostly in Chicago, and that's one of our bigger sellers.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I never talked to you about that.
And uh, uh, she spends a lot of time in Italy. They have a home in Italy, and she is Greek but married to an Italian, so she's very acceptable to us racially, if we were racist, but which we're not. Okay, I'm sounding like Trump. Angeline, go ahead and let's hear about your adventure.
Okay, ciao tutti, buongiorno, buonasera, wherever you are. Thank you. Grazie per venire. As Dominic said, my name is, in America, my name is Angie. In Greece, my name is Angeliki. And in Italy, I'm Angelina. And yes, so we are a very multicultural family. I'm Greek. I lived in Greece. I've been a teacher of Greek. I graduated 2 universities in Greece, and I never could understand when I was living in Greece why I started studying Italian. And little did I know that when I came back to the United States, I'd meet my husband, Paolo Bartolomei. And he was very excited to learn Greek until he saw that we had 5 E's in the alphabet. He just says, oh, I can't. I said, never mind. I'll continue learning Italian. And we've been blessed with a life where we just we have 1 foot in 3 countries, go back and forth. And for 14 years, we had a very nice apartment in Borgo Bugiano, which is by Montecatini. And we would spend, many summers, every summer out there and between Greece and Italy. And last year we decided to sell it and buy a house. So this is how my story begins, because a year ago, January, we had to fly to Italy to close on our apartment and close on the house. And we just started hearing about this COVID, and nobody really knew much about it at all. I have to say, though, that when we were out there, we became so deadly ill. We kept blaming it on the fact that we weren't sure how the heat was working in the new home. And we just said we caught cold. I was washing floors and getting the house ready. And it wasn't until a few months later when COVID hit here where I said to my husband, I said, do you think we had that COVID? We were so sick. So who knows? When I went back in the summer, I talked to friends and relatives. I said, remember how sick we were? And they said, yeah, so were we. And we're all thinking that maybe we already had this COVID in January. I don't know. We haven't been tested. But so anyway, we went in January to move into our new home. And we came back to the United States, and right away, we bought our tickets to go to Italy in May, before COVID, not realizing that we were going to have any problems. So let me take you in. Hopefully we're not going to have any technical difficulties. Jason was great teaching me how to project this from my screen. So we're going to go right now. Okay, I think I hope everything is fine over here. Just a minute, there we go. And as I show you this, give me a few minutes.
Yeah, I see it.
Can you see it? Wonderful. Okay. Okay, so I'm sure everybody knows the expression andrà tutto bene, a sign we saw all over, and you're going to be seeing it with my PowerPoint. So we first had tickets with Lufthansa, and we planned to leave on I want to say it was May 20th or May 22nd. So as we all know, COVID happened, and we kept saying, we're not going to cancel our flight. Let's just see what happens. Well, lo and behold, by about April something, Lufthansa came back and they canceled our flight. And I was arguing with my husband and saying, just accept it. We're not going this year. No, we're going. We're going to go. We're going to go. So I did a lot of reading, and I knew that there was quarantine, and I knew that Germany would be the main source of, they were telling all the countries in the European Union, watch what Germany decides. And if Germany decides this country can't come in, then the other countries should follow. So I knew that on June 15th, they would be deciding, they would be opening the doors to other countries, but I knew America would not be in it. And I also knew that they were quarantine people. And I said, forget it. Let's just not even think of going with Lufthansa. Let's just get into Italy. Let's get into Rome. And it's just a 3.5 hour drive about from Rome to Tuscany. Let's do it that way. So we booked again. And guess what? It was canceled again. And then we booked a third time, and we were pretty confident that, okay, this time we're going to be able to go. And let me step back and say that we are both fortunate because we weren't going as Americans. I have a Greek passport with an American passport, and my husband has the Italian, and we own a home. So we knew that we had those advantages, and we absolutely had to get there, according to my husband, to transfer a lot of paperwork from the one suburb to the next. So we got an email like shortly before the trip saying, your trip has been postponed by 1 day. And we said, well, if it's just 1 day, that's okay. So we finally did it. And it was really, really, it was hard to do. I have to say too that there weren't really many flights going to, there was only one a day going to Kennedy, and we were leaving out of Kennedy with Alitalia. So my husband even rented a car and said that if worst comes to worst, we were so afraid that we'd miss this Alitalia flight. They were not taking out every day. And he said that the day before, he says, even if I have to the day before drive out there, we'll drive out there. Then we had a ticket with Delta to go Chicago to Detroit, Detroit to I think it was I can't remember, it was Guardia or Delta. And I said, I wasn't happy about that because I felt that too many, we still were afraid, we were still frightened about COVID. I said, too many airplanes, too many airports. And then I said to him, you know what, why don't we just fly to LaGuardia, and there's more flights, and then we'll Uber to Kennedy. And that's exactly what we did. So we finally made it on, we left on the 17th of June. And here we are at O'Hare, and it was sad. It was eerie. There was nobody around. As you can see from my pictures, everything was closed down. Stores were closed down. Starbucks was closed down. I like to walk a lot. I count steps. I wear a Fitbit. So I just was walking through different, as far as I could go, just taking pictures and seeing what was going on. You saw some security, some police walking through, but really it was dead. Okay, so we took off on time. Delta was incredible, clean, very empty. They were the one airlines that stuck by I heard all summer long, they said we will not put more than, I think 40%, of people in the airplane. Everything was packaged. They gave a bottle of water. There was no such thing as serving you coffee or tea. And that's okay. The plane was fine, and we did it. So a few more pictures from O'Hare. You can see everything is closed down. Now we arrived in LaGuardia. One good thing, I had a few years to go to LaGuardia, and I always used to complain and say, this is a disgrace. This is the door into the United States, the window, door, whatever you want to call it. And I always was complaining at what bad shape it was in, but this is the new LaGuardia, and it looks beautiful. It really was. But again, very, very empty. And so we just gathered our suitcases, and we already had arranged for an Uber that took us to JFK. So now at JFK, again, pretty empty. Only like, I think one or two terminals were open. This is the international terminal. And we had about, I want to say 4 hours to kill. And we just, we said, well, let's just check in as soon as we could. But that was another issue, that they weren't opening up. And if you can see, I don't know how clear my pictures are for you. From my screen, it's smaller, but over here, they're taking temperatures. By the end of this whole summer, I said, I have never in my life had my temperature taken as much as I have this past summer. Italy, everywhere we went, they were constantly taking our temperature. So here we are, before we are boarding for, not boarding, we are going to check into Alitalia. And that was another place where I was really scared, because I said, okay, I just didn't believe that. I thought maybe they're going to say, you know, what are you doing? Where are you going? You can't go. Even though I was reading in the Italian newspaper that people were buying tickets and they were arriving right here and they were being sent back saying, you know, you're American. And so I went up with both passports. I said, okay, what do you want? I'm both, you know, I'm Greek, and they said, we don't care about the American passport. We want to see, you know, the EU passport. So there was absolutely no problem there. We had forms to fill out, a lot of forms, a lot of paperwork, and documentation, why we were going back, where we were going, where we were staying, our telephone number. We did it. Okay, so now we get through and we're waiting to take off with Alitalia, which was excellent. I can only say the best with Alitalia. And okay, and so on the plane, oh, one thing, we had to give the documentation before entering Alitalia, the airplane. Once we arrived over here in Rome, again, temperature, and we were told that we had the wrong forms. So everybody on the plane was given new documentation, and they said that was the documentation before June 15th. You have to fill out this. So again, we were really nervous, like, okay, once we get here, what are they going to say? You know, what are we going to tell them? You know, are we telling them we're coming for the summer? We had no problems. Actually, they loved my Greek passport, and the young man working there was looking at the letters and he was laughing. You know, he's like telling everybody in Greek, they don't say cha, they say si. Chicago is Chicago, and he was saying that Sigma is for the Chicago. And all along, I kept asking him, you know, I said, well, do we have to quarantine now? And no, nobody said anything. Our main concern was that if we drove, oh, also, this is finally, they had just opened up the regional borders. That's one thing I had to say. So we knew that we could drive from Rome to Tuscany, but we weren't sure if we had to go into 2 weeks of quarantine, what were we going to do? We'd have to call like a cousin up to go shopping for us, bring us food, but nobody ever said anything. So we drove to Tuscany, and things were quite normal, even though empty. We went to our town. We live in Pescia, which is right next to Collodi, Pinocchio's town, and we settled in really quite well. We were at home a lot because it was something that we just said that, you know, we weren't sure what life was going to be like. You know, we knew that it wasn't going to be like the other summers. And I even said with, you know, friends and relatives, they might not want to see us. We're coming from America, and our cases were still pretty high. So actually, things just started falling in place. Italy at least Tuscany, what I'm talking about is it did have a different taste to it. As you can see, oh, one thing I wanted to say is I wasn't just going home. I had a grant from my university because I'm doing a study, and every year I either do a study and I get a grant from my university to do research either in Italy or in Greece. Sometimes I do a comparative study. And one of my latest studies is the linguistic landscape, where I'm analyzing signs. And so it was kind of good, how much I wanted to see in Tuscany, especially in Pescia, Montecatini, and these towns, what I'm going to see in signs, if it's going to be reflecting their immigrants, their refugees, people who are not Italians, if signs are written in different languages, and if they're written only for the tourists. Well, because of COVID, I got some very interesting signs, and most of them were COVID signs. And as you can see in these signs, mostly everything was in Italian. They weren't really expecting to have many tourists. In this one picture over here, they're giving thanks to, their first responders. This was just a little enotica, a little wine place. But if you can see down here, they did have the hand sanitizer. This little blue tent in our town was every so often they would open it, and you could just bring your either your codici fiscali, your little tax card, proof that you are a resident there, and they would give you free masks. Something that doesn't really happen over here, but over there you were entitled to get a free mask. Here, these signs were in a lot of places that were just showing you what to do, the do's and the don'ts for COVID. The same in Montecatini. You see signs about, what are the rules? How are you supposed to be acting? Where you're supposed to, many times, this was on the train that I took to Montecatini. They were blocking off seats, like they would put a sticker going across that you can't sit there. You can't sit next to somebody. The same with, standing in line at the train stations. We took, for those of you who spend time in Italy, and especially in the summer, the one thing that we did love was the fact that we just felt like we had the towns to ourselves. This is Lucca, and if you've been to Lucca in the summertime, usually, in the one picture, that street is so crowded. You have to, you're banging into people. We were just walking around. Only the locals. We heard very few foreign languages, few Germans. But other than that, there really weren't, we didn't hear much English being spoken at all. You can see all of these stores, again, the signs with, behavior, don't enter without a mask. One thing that a lot of these stores, especially our supermarket, when we went in the supermarket, they'd have the screener up and they took our temperature, and then you had to wash your hands. At clothing stores, for example, they would tell you to put on gloves. You had to always keep your mask on. Some stores were counting how many people they were letting in. So we decided one Sunday, something we would never do in a normal Sunday, a normal summer, to take the train to, this is actually the tram. We drove to Florence and we parked our car at the station, and we decided, we took the tram, which we always do. We because you can't drive into Florence unless you're a resident there. And so this is what the tram looked like. As you can see, they had these strands, like these little plastic things going, or wires that you couldn't sit. There's certain places you could sit, where you could stand. Again, signs warning you about, the do's and the don'ts for COVID. Now, this, I'm kidding you not, these are real life, these are our pictures. This is what Florence looked like. And so for those of you who've gone to Florence in the summer, again, look at going by the Duomo, look at La Piazza Signoria, where the Edison store used to be, Piazza Repubblica, empty. And it was enjoyable. It really, really was nice. In a way, it was sad because it didn't have the same air, but it was kind of nice just going everywhere and not being pushed, not being waiting in lines. Was also a really good time to go to museums, which we didn't do. We just kind of felt that, no, and this trip was not doomed. We've done them in the past. But for example, at the Uffizi, one great thing is they were giving out necklaces that would like light up if you went too close to a person. So I was really, really impressed with so many of the COVID, what's the word I'm even looking, what they've come out with, their initiatives, I should say. So now we went to eat at this restaurant, and before we could even go in, again, you know, temperature, and we had to, you can see on the side, we had to write who we were, what our phone number was, and I think that was mainly done for precaution that if somebody in there turned out like tomorrow, the next day to have COVID, they would have to call us and they would have to say, you know, go get tested, you've been exposed to it. The same thing in our town, we had to go to the municipio, the municipality, and we had to give all that information. Again, we had to give our phone number. We had to, we couldn't go into offices. The lady we went to see in the municipality had to come down and talk to us basically in the hallway. Very different. The restaurant was lovely. The food was wonderful. This was in, actually I took this picture. I didn't realize I didn't have at one of the stores, one of the stores I like to go into, I didn't have a picture taken, but this, again, this is showing the sign in front of it, everything that they're doing. And so shopping they watched everything in the stores too. More signs you can see about washing your hands, don't hug people. I think that probably was one of the hardest things for being a Greek and, you know, being in Italy, where we like to hug and we like to kiss, and we had to just elbow everybody or, you know, just like that. And that was the one thing I think I was probably afraid that when I saw somebody, I'd run and grab and kiss them. And so we got used to that real fast. We would go, I'll show you here, the Mercato. I would go every week. I'd walk to our Mercato. And again, I had to wear my mask. A lot of people were out. There were, a lot of booths would have their own cleaning, you know, you'd wash your hands and everything. Some even were more sophisticated where they had roped off. You'd have to stand in a line and they only let a few people go up to the bancarello. And so that was very organized too. So then all of a sudden Ferragosto came, and my husband's cousins own a restaurant up in Pizzorna. It's Pizzorni, but we say Pizzorna. And when I got there, I couldn't believe it because there were just tons and tons. I have to say over 1,000 people just walking around and with masks on. They had so many bancarelli. They had so many. It's all forest there. It's up in the woods, and some people were having picnics. Some people were waiting to get into our cousin's restaurant. They were only letting a few people in. And I have to say that they are probably the strictest, because we would go out to eat often with, you know, once a week we'd go to our pizza place in our neighborhood, and once a week we'd go out with our friends. And some restaurants were stricter than the others. Most of the time, of course, we were outside. At this restaurant, we were eating indoors, and we were with our friends, and they actually separated us. They put my husband and I at one table. Next to us was another small table with separated, but we were talking back and forth. And our cousin said that if she knew that with a young couple, they weren't married, she would separate them. She would literally say, you could only sit together at the same table if you are from the same family. She went to the extreme. I perhaps because they're up in the mountains. They had no cases. They weren't sure who was coming into their small mountain town, village. And because we went in Tuscany to other restaurants, and actually one time we went, no, 2 times we went to 2 different restaurants, and we didn't feel that they were really observing that much the COVID. They all wore their masks, but they put people very close together. And the tables were really, there was not a distance. So a few times we did see that. But in general, this was really impressive. And they also had the Croce Rossa, the Red Cross there, and with a little stand, and they were testing people, and not testing for COVID. They just were testing people's temperature and reminding people, please put that mask on, please be careful. So I was really, really, really impressed with the way everybody was responding to the regulations. And then, even though there was COVID going on, Italy is Italy. Doesn't matter where you are, the beautiful sights, the flowers. So many times, I'd walk around in my neighborhood and I'd say, I'd forget. I really would forget that there was such a thing called COVID, and until I saw somebody. I'd walk around in my own neighborhood. It's on a hill. It's a small neighborhood. I didn't really wear a mask because I knew I wouldn't be talking to many people, and if I did, I would be a distance away. But when I went into town, I always would wear under my chin the mask, and if anybody was walking, I didn't care how old they were, I'd pull it up right away out of respect for them and to be safe and careful. The one thing that I loved seeing were all the flags, all the ethnics, the pride, the support, the unity. Like I said, I've spent so many summers of my life since I've been married, and that's 37 years ago in Italy. And one thing I used to say is, well, if I compare Greece to Italy, I always would see more flags. I felt that there was more of this ethnicity, that ethno-nationalism in Greece, sometimes too much, than I would see and I'm talking about Northern Italy. I'm not talking because we've gone to Southern Italy and I'll say, oh, this is like Greece. But in Northern Italy, I would see, I would see flags when there was the World Cup. And I remember one time our one daughter said, oh my goodness, are they? This is more so than in Greece. We were taking the train from Rome to Tuscany, and I said the World Cup is going on. That's why we're seeing all these flags. But this summer, flags were everywhere. And at first, when we first arrived, I'm thinking, okay, I know that there was the national holiday on June 1st. Maybe some people still left it out. And then as the summer went on, these 2 pictures here were at our cousin's house, right next to Collodi, and in a little town. And I said to them, your flag is still up. Are you doing that for COVID? He said, yes, it has been up ever since, it started here, and we're keeping it up. And then, you see at the doorway, they've got, of course, the little model that andrà tutto bene. But there was a lot of support, and I was proud, to say that, to see that, and to see that how everybody was working together. And unfortunately, I came back to the United States, and I am talking to you. I'm here right now. I'm in Park Ridge, and my house is right behind our house. We have a big park where the Little League kids are playing soccer. When we arrived the end of August, I think it was still softball. A lot of people, no masks, and I said, you know what? I felt safer in Italy than I feel here in America. And we also know that there's political connotations with COVID and the mask, and I did not really recognize that over there. Oh, there were a few times that a certain friend and relative might have complained about a politician that they were doing something wrong, they didn't do something right. But in general, there was a national policy. Just like a few days ago in Italy, they just said that everyone. I think it was 2 weeks that everyone has to wear a mask outside, which in the summer we had to if we were in public places. But now if you go, even if I go and throw my garbage away in Italy, I have to put that mask on because they are patrolling and they have, put more stipulations down. But we know it's not happening over here. It's just like whatever. So yeah, the ethnic pride was something that was great. Here we see, as summer moved on, and for those of you who are familiar with the Italian custom of putting the little the kindergarten aprons that the little kids go to school in, at this department store in Pescia, in our town, I loved it because they had the chalkboard up, and if you can see it, it says, a settembre torniamo finalmente a scuola, speriamo senza mascherina, senza plexiglass, abbiamo voglia di stare tutti insieme. So in September, we're returning to school. We hope without plexiglass, we hope without masks. We want to be all united. We want to be together again. And as we know, and I've been following the news, I've been talking with friends, what's going on in the schools. I'm especially interested in schools because I'm a professor of the School of Education here. And so I keep up with schools in Greece and in Italy, and they are wearing masks over there. I know the same thing happened in Greece and in Italy, that in many schools, they don't have individual desks. They have like those they look like tables, and they were supposed to get rid of all of those. And some people were angry because they weren't doing that. They didn't keep their word. I mean, if you think of all the schools in both countries, all the schools, it's a lot of money. They also, at the time that we were there, across the street from our house, we have a little asilo, a little preschool, and there was a law out this summer that all the schools had to make their schools earthquake. So they passed some legislation. So the schools were all working on that this summer. They were working on making their schools sturdier for earthquakes. And so then they had a lot going on. But they are back in school. They were considering getting that fast test, that fast COVID test, if they needed it. Unfortunately, throughout the world, different regions are going through higher, they're having a higher rate, so they're having different restrictions. They're trying, I think every country's trying to avoid doing a national lockdown, but they are doing lockdowns in certain regions. We know Catania and again, up north there, Lombardy is having, they're having a lot of cases, so they've put more restrictions there. But like I said, we managed to have a wonderful time, to go out, to be with people. We all were careful. We all, fortunately, up until now, knock on wood, we don't know anybody from friends or relatives in any of our countries, any three of the countries that have had a problem with COVID. Everyone is being, really careful. Now, let me see. So we arrived at the end, and again, I have to say that we drove, because we were leaving 9:30 in the morning with Alitalia. We did have a few cancellations. At first, we booked into going straight to Chicago, but there was no flight. There was no reason to have an Alitalia Chicago straight flight. There were tourists this year, so they did cancel our trip a few times, but for the same day, but different flights, different whatever. We drove back to Rome. We stayed in the hotel right next to the airport. That too was an experience between the security, the cleanliness, and booking to eat in the restaurant, going to the airport again. I was happy to hear a few weeks ago that Rome did get the 5-star. They're the only city, Italy's the only country with the airport where they've received 5 stars for a COVID airport. And experience all this, I can say they deserved it. They had they have special air rooms. It's very clean. They're testing right now. They just came out in the Rome airport. They're wearing helmets, and these helmets are heat screeners. So if you walk through with a fever, I guess the helmet lights up. They're not holding, they're not holding anymore. When we went through, there were screens. They were screening us, but they're being very, very careful. We already bought tickets to go in December, and I don't know if it's going to be like our last trip where we're getting canceled and we're playing with. We said, let's give it a shot to go for 1 month. Fortunately, everything I'm doing is online. I'm teaching online. I'm evaluating all of my student teachers online. They're filming their online classes. We have all our meetings, our School of Education, our university meetings online. So like I said, I could be in Africa and I could be doing everything I'm doing. So we're giving it a shot. We're going to try again to go out there in from December to the end of January, and we'll see, because we know all over the cases are going up, and that's it. We'll see. So if anybody wants any questions, I could talk on and on about this.
Right.
I think I will stop sharing. I don't think I need. Why don't I go like that? Okay, so I can see all of you now. Good. Jason, you did it. Wherever you are, you did a great job because it worked out. Thank you. Thank you. So any questions or anything you want to share? I know we've got somebody from Italy who could, I think you're in Rome, if I'm correct. You can add things.
Yes, may I, Angelina? May I speak?
Sure, certainly.
Oh, yeah. It was great to listen to you and to hear about, your experience in Italy.
Thank you, Guardia.
Yes, I think it was a wonderful description. While I limited myself to writing a work of fiction, actually you told a real life story. I see that you have a basic interest in the teaching field. As a school principal here in Rome, perhaps it would be convenient to give you some updating on the recent events.
Please, yes.
Yes, my school is a comprehensive school. So when I saw those little uniforms there about the kindergarten children, yes, they are very happy and have been very happy to be back to school. What is our main concern at the moment? Our main concern is that the parents are worried about us having to separate classes, because according to security measures, we cannot have more than 12 to 14 students in a classroom. So, the fact that the students are separate does not satisfy the parents who are complaining, because they would like the class put back together. But unfortunately, we do not have those single desks that have been ordered. They have never arrived. So we have made some kind of arrangements with the regular double desks and separating at 1 meter distance the children. In my school, we are experimenting what we call the COVID area. When there is some kind of suspicion that the student might not be feeling well, he is taken by the referente to the COVID area. And this morning, with a group of architects, we suggested that the COVID area should be called something else, like a waiting room, a suggestopedic area with music, sounds, games, puzzles. They're not in a prison. these are children. So we're working on this. And tomorrow evening, as an Asian ambassador, European School Head Association, which I belong to, we're going to be discussing these measures. Unfortunately, I heard you use the adjective eerie. It is eerie. Angelina and friends, I must tell you that the moment I am staying at a hotel because my regular has shut down because of the COVID. So I have all my belongings, my clothes and stuff there, and I'm just, arranging this way in the hotel. And this evening, the show was not too good because while having dinner, we heard the Ordinanza coming up soon from the Lazio region, this and Friday, much alike the Campania region, where the cases are going up, the COVID cases. My husband works in heart surgery, so he's been taking tests continuously with suspect COVID cases. And so we're very close to, I don't know, clausura. For the time being, Campania and Lazio will be having curfew from 11 p.m. until 5 o'clock in the morning. There will not be any possibility from going on within the same region from one provincia to the other. So this means that you will have to have special permits. Yes, the situation is quite eerie, but as we Italians usually do, and we have a lot to share with Greeks, of course, Magna Grecia is where I come from. I live in the Paxum area, Poseidonia. We owe much to the Greeks, but a lot of energy, faith, and hope, and that's my message from Italy at the moment. And thank you so much, Angelina, for your comfort and for your beautiful words.
Some more questions.
I'd like to say thank you, and I hope to reach out and stay in touch with you because we have a lot in common, Maria. And I was in Puglia doing for the Greco communities 2 years. I did research out there, so I'd love to talk to you about the schools and everything else.
Yes, and come to visit us at Istituto Comprensivo Emilio Macro. I'll write down the address here in the chat area, and we'll be waiting for you, Angelina. Please
Thank you.
come.
Grazie.
Okay, connections.
Well,
Luke Orsino, are you still there?
I'm here. One of the questions I have of Angelina is that we're thinking about going to Italy, not this December, but the following December, see relatives. So what's Italy like during the holidays?
Rainy.
Rainy? I mean,
You know what? We've spent a number of holidays out there. If you're looking, I don't know how, if you're young children, what they are. I have to say that probably one of my favorite holidays in the United States is Christmas. Just the decor and everything. And I don't really find that in Tuscany where we are. I don't know about other regions. It's not. Friends of mine have said that actually, if you want to see really great decor, go to Paris or we've been in Germany, and I have to say that it's very, very nice. The one thing I have to tell you is temperature wise, it's not cold, but you have to layer because it's very damp. I remember the first time I went in the winter time, and we were walking around. Actually, we were in Lago di Como. We were Lake Como, and I'm walking, and I kept picking up my shoes and saying, "This has never happened to me. Do I have holes in my shoes?" I never remember my feet being so cold, and it was just because it was so damp. But yet it was interesting because you could see there were flowers. There were flowers blooming in certain areas, but it's cold. It's damp. It's we say in Greek "tsukterokrio," which means it's knife-piercing cold. And the same thing in Greece. Greece is the temperature is high. And when I was a student, I have to say that living in Greece, there were a few times I was tardy for class, which is not my personality, only because I could not get myself out of bed because the heat wasn't on in the apartment buildings, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
That's another thing. Central heating is a little bit spotty.
Depending where you are. Yeah.
Hmm.
Although in Rome, they have the bagpipers come down from the Abruzzese mountains. They've got a lot of creches. The Piazza Navona is filled with
Oh,
toys
Piazza Navona, exactly.
and other things. So the Italians do Christmas up pretty good, but they don't have snow in Rome, for instance. And but there's always snow in the mountains. So
Well, I think the one thing I was disappointed was the first time I was out there, as I was used to buying for my trees here in Chicago, ornaments made in Italy, beautiful, beautiful ornaments, beautiful nativities and everything. And unfortunately, right now, everything is made in China. And I go to stores even like, you know, and around the holidays and say, oh, I want somebody that says, Buon Natale, Buon Anno. And it's like, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And I'm like, I don't want this. I don't want to see it in English. I want Italian.
Fine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Angela, Angelyn, are you there?
I'm here. Yes, yes.
All right, Peter Farrell here. I'm wondering how your school is holding up in this COVID time. Is enrollment holding steady at North Park College, or do you have?
University, I'll tell you, we were expecting worse. We have seen a surge in graduate school and graduate classes because, like, for instance, my program, I train teachers how to to get ESL and bilingually endorsed. And many of my students are already teachers in the school. They love it that I'm doing everything online because my classes used to take place on Saturdays, and for a school teacher going to school Monday through Friday, and then having to come to my class for 5 hours on Saturday. And so we're seeing a great, they gave me the choice because our school is open. They're trying to get the undergrads back on campus, but very spread out, very small classes. And I said, I don't want to go on campus. I have a 95-year-old mother. I don't want to bring any germs to her. And so far they've done a great job of keeping the count really low. We don't have many cases at all, but we're doing, thank God we're doing fine. Where it's a little tricky is with my students who are doing student teaching right now. Catholic schools, parochial schools will not let them do student teaching. They don't want any outsiders. So we can only have them in Chicago public schools. Chicago public schools are only online. So in a way it's good. They have learned how to do Zoom. These programs, we're learning from them, how to teach online. They're recording themselves. We're evaluating, we're grading them on this. But then again, this is America. There are different, from school to school, level to level, there are different rules. For instance, my high school teachers, students in high schools, I said to one, I said, where are the students? All I saw were little symbols. They said, no, it's a rule. We cannot watch any student. So they don't even know if their students are there or just clicked on and walked away. In the elementary schools, there's not this problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
anybody else have a question?
I think it's so interesting what you had to say about COVID. You know, I'm an old lady. I just turned 76. But I still work 2 days a week. And let me tell you, this COVID thing is terrible. I wish that people would take it more seriously like they do in Italy. I'm so impressed to hear everything that they're doing there. I wish we were doing it here. You know, and then when I have to tell people that they're positive and they need to quarantine, they get angry with you. They say they're not going to do it. You know, I mean, it's just terrible. And then, you know, you give them all the instructions and they don't follow them. It's so sad. I don't know, you know, I don't know what else to do anymore. It's so frustrating. This is my third time with cancer. So I have to be treated till I die now because I can't come off the treatment anymore. And so if I get COVID, you know, I mean, I'm not going to survive it, but So I have real strict rules. If I'm going to see a patient in the office, they have to follow the rule. And a lot of them are really getting nasty, but I tell them, if you want to be seen, this is what you have to do. But it shouldn't be a struggle. I mean, I don't understand why it's a struggle here.
Unmuted.
In Italy, they don't have that problem. I really wish that we would take some lessons from Italy and
I
get on
agree.
board with this thing. Thank you.
Truly agree.
Enjoyed your talk very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brought back a lot of memories of travels to Italy. Right.
But in a different Italy, Dominic, a completely different. I mean, like I said, you see Florence and Lucca, all these places empty like that, empty. Even in Rome, we were disappointed there because right at the hotel they have either the shuttle that takes you into the city, and I said to my husband, "Oh, let's go. I would love to go." You know, we arrived in the afternoon. I would love to go to the Jewish ghetto and have some carciofi today, and canceled, no shuttle, and you know. So we just stayed in the hotel and ate at the restaurant. But yeah, it's a different Italy, and it's going to remain like that until this goes away, unfortunately.